Before the show starts, drop a comment below with where you're watching from, then sit back, relax, and get ready for some chilling stories. I never really feared riding in Ubers. As someone who traveled a lot for work, it was just part of my routine. Get out of the meeting, hop in the car, zone out until I got home. That night was no different. It was around 10:30 p.m. when I walked out of the Sheraton Hotel in Denver after a long negotiation with a client. I was drained, just craving a hot shower in my bed. I opened the app, requested a ride, and within 2 minutes, a black Toyota Camry pulled up in front of the hotel. The license plate matched, and the guy behind the wheel gave me a quick nod. His name on the app was Kyle, but he didn't say a word when I got in. Just started driving. At first, I chalked it up to him being one of those drivers who didn't feel like chatting. Fair enough, I wasn't in the mood either. But then maybe 5 minutes into the ride, I noticed something weird. We took a left onto 14th Street, which was not the way home. I leaned forward a bit. "Hey, I think you're going the wrong way," I said, trying to keep my voice light. He didn't answer. I unlocked my phone, opened the Uber app to check the route, and that's when my stomach dropped. The trip wasn't showing up anymore. The ride had been canceled. At some point, maybe a few minutes after I got in the car, the driver had ended the ride, and I had no idea. "Why did you end the trip?" I asked, louder this time. Still no answer. He just kept driving, eyes locked on the road. That's when I noticed his hands were trembling slightly on the steering wheel. He muttered something under his breath, too soft for me to understand, but it sounded like whispering, like he was talking to someone who wasn't there. Now I was fully alert. I tried opening the door. Locked. "Hey, seriously, man, let me out of the car." Nothing. I texted my friend Mark, in Uber. "Something's wrong. I think I'm being kidnapped." No signal. The little bars were totally dead. Probably because we were already leaving the city limits. I took a deep breath and tried not to panic. "You don't have to do this," I said, calmer now. "I won't report anything. Just stop the car." He glanced at me for the first time and smiled. Not a normal smile. A slow, crooked, delighted grin. Like he was enjoying every second of this. Then he turned down a gravel road that led into complete darkness. No streetlights. No houses. Just forest. I felt my pulse hammering in my throat. I reached into my jacket slowly, pretending to adjust my phone, but really trying to grab the small Swiss Army knife I always carried. It wasn't much, but it made me feel less helpless. The road got bumpier, and finally, I saw an opportunity. The car slowed as it approached a sharp curve. I looked at the speedometer, just under 30 miles per hour. If I was going to jump, this was it. I braced myself, yanked the lock switch, and threw the door open. The moment my feet hit the ground, I felt the shock tear through my legs. I stumbled hard, tumbling into the dirt and gravel, rolling for what felt like forever. Everything burned, my hands, my elbows, my knees. But I didn't stop. I scrambled to my feet and bolted straight into the trees, not even caring where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. Behind me, I heard the car slam to a stop, then the sound of the door creaking open, followed by footsteps. Fast ones, crunching twigs and leaves as he came after me. I could barely breathe. My heart was going 100 miles an hour. The trees around me blurred in the darkness, and the cold air burned in my throat. I don't know how far I ran, maybe half a mile. A mile? It felt endless. I tripped more than once, but forced myself back up every time. Finally, I spotted a dim orange glow through the trees, a light. I ran toward it like my life depended on it, because it literally did. It turned out to be an old gas station, mostly shut down for the night except for one single overhead light near the pumps. I burst out of the trees, waving my arms like a maniac, covered in dirt and blood. A teenage girl who was inside a pickup truck at one of the pumps saw me and screamed. But her dad, thank God, jumped out and came running. "I need help. Please, someone's trying to kidnap me," I yelled. He didn't waste a second. He shouted for his daughter to call 911, then pulled me behind the truck, keeping his eyes on the tree line. A couple minutes later, the guy in the Camry came creeping up the road. When he saw the gas station lights and the people outside, he turned around and sped off. The police arrived 15 minutes later. I gave them everything, descriptions, the plate, the app info, even the fake name. Turns out the car was stolen. The driver had hacked or duplicated a driver account and had been using it for days. There were reports from other cities. People complaining about weird rides, suspicious behavior, one guy who was robbed at knife point. They never found him. Weeks went by. I moved to a new apartment, changed all my passwords, deleted every rideshare app from my phone. Even now, months later, I still check over my shoulder whenever I walk outside. I can't sit in the back seat of a car without thinking about that night, that smile, those whispers. It's wild how something as routine as calling an Uber almost got me killed. Now, if I can't drive myself, I just don't go. No meeting, no party, no dinner is worth what I went through. Some people think I'm being paranoid, but those people didn't look into the eyes of a predator wearing a name tag and holding 5 stars on an app. You'd think being the driver would give you the power. After all, you're behind the wheel, right? You choose the route, you set the pace. But I learned the hard way that sometimes it doesn't matter who's driving. Danger finds its way in, sits right behind you, and smiles. It was a Thursday night, sometime past 11. My shift was almost over. I was debating whether to take one last ride or just call it a night when a ping came through. Brian, 2.1 miles away. Pickup location, grocery store parking lot just off the highway. 4-star rating, short trip, nothing unusual. So I accepted. When I pulled into the lot, I saw him standing near the edge of the shadows, just outside the reach of the parking lights. Tall, slim, maybe early 40s. Hoodie up, hands in his pockets. I had a little chill crawl up my spine, but it was cold out. That's all it was, just the weather. He opened the back door and slid in without saying much. I greeted him. He gave me a polite hey. His voice was smooth, soft, almost too casual. I confirmed his destination, an apartment complex about 10 minutes out, and started driving. First couple minutes were silent. Then he started talking. You always drive this late? Sometimes, I said. Depends on the night. That's safe. For a woman, I mean. I kept my eyes on the road, pretending I didn't feel the shift in the air. Usually is, I answered. Haven't had any problems. Must meet a lot of weirdos though, he chuckled. I gave a polite smile in the rearview mirror. Yes, sometimes. Then he leaned forward a bit, resting his arm on the passenger seat. You live around here? That one made my fingers tighten on the steering wheel. Not really. I move around a lot. He laughed. Smart. Keep people guessing. I didn't respond. Anybody waiting for you after this ride? He asked next. Boyfriend? Husband? I forced a small smile and said, yeah. My husband doesn't like when I stay out too late. That was a lie. I was single, but I'd learned to use that one whenever a ride got weird. He said, leaning back again. Lucky guy. There was something about the way he said it. Like he didn't believe me. Or worse, like he did and didn't care. We were getting close to his destination when he suddenly said, Hey, do you mind taking a quick detour? Depends where. Just up ahead. I forgot something at a buddy's place. It's like 2 minutes off the main road. I hesitated. I'd need to update the ride in the app. He leaned forward again. Come on. Just a quick stop. Won't take long. Something about his tone made it clear that wasn't a request. My heart started to thump a little harder. I glanced at the app. He hadn't updated anything. I really need to keep rides on the app, I said. Company policy. Then I heard it, the faint click of the door locks engaging. He had locked us in. Company policy, he said in a low voice. That's cute. I kept driving, but I could feel my skin buzzing, like every nerve was tuned into the guy behind me. He wasn't saying anything now, just sitting there, breathing. Slow. Controlled. I glanced toward a gas station coming up on the right. Bright lights. Security cameras. People. I needed to think fast. Oh crap, I said suddenly. I think something's wrong with the car. Feels like a flat. I eased off the gas and pulled into the station. My hands were shaking so hard I almost missed the driveway. The second I stopped, I popped the gear into park and hit the unlock button. Thank God the override still worked. He shifted forward. We're stopping here? Just need to check the tire. Won't take a sec, I said, already halfway out of the driver's seat. I left the door open. It was all I had time for. Once I was outside, I walked around the car slowly, pretending to check the front tire. But I was scanning people, doors, cameras, anything. That's when I saw a woman in a hoodie coming out of the gas station, holding a bag of snacks. I caught her eye and said, loud enough to hear, "Hey, sorry, can you help me real quick? I think this guy in my car is trying to hurt me." Her eyes widened. Without missing a beat, she bolted back inside and started yelling for the clerk to call the cops. I backed away from the car, heart slamming in my chest. Brian opened his door and stepped out slowly, like he wasn't even worried. Just gave me this little smirk, like he'd already had his fun. Then he took off. He ran behind the station and disappeared into the night. The police showed up 6 minutes later, took my statement, checked the footage, and within hours, they had his face and plates everywhere. He was arrested the next morning, trying to board a bus heading out of state. Turns out his real name wasn't Brian. He had a record, stalking, false imprisonment, even a past Uber account that got banned. He'd been using a stolen profile from a friend who still drove under the radar. That night changed everything for me. I took a break from driving for a long time. I still haven't gotten back behind the wheel for Uber, and honestly, I'm not sure I ever will. I thought being the driver gave me control. I thought the danger was always in the back seat. But sometimes it gets in quietly, smiling, polite, patient, until it decides it's done playing nice. Driving Uber at night in LA is always a gamble. Most rides are harmless, drunk people going home, couples arguing in the back seat, the usual. But every once in a while, something feels off from the moment they get in. That was the case with Derek. It was 2:07 a.m. when the request came in. Pickup, outside a nightclub on Sunset. Destination, a residential address about 15 minutes away. Easy money to wrap up the night. When I pulled up, he was already standing on the curb, pacing like he was impatient. He didn't look drunk, more like twitchy, hyper-alert. He wore a baseball cap pulled low and had this wild look in his eyes, like he hadn't slept in days. He slid into the back seat and slammed the door shut. "Let's go," he barked before I even confirmed the ride. "Good evening," I said calmly. "You Derek?" He nodded once, then looked out the window. I started the route and pulled into traffic. For the first few minutes, he didn't say a word. Then out of nowhere, he leaned forward, real close to the back of my head. "Hey, make a left up here instead. I don't want to go home just yet." I glanced in the mirror. "Sure, just update the destination in the app." He didn't move. I said make a left. Something in his tone made the hairs on my neck stand up. I stayed cool. I have to follow the app, man. Company policy. Gotta keep everything on record. He leaned back again. "You always follow rules like that?" I didn't answer. A few blocks later, I noticed him messing with something in his jacket. Then he said, way too casually, "You ever think about how easy it'd be to take someone's car in your job?" I felt my hands tighten on the wheel. "Think about it," he went on. "One guy, one knife, one scared little Uber driver. Boom. Free ride." I didn't respond. My mind was racing, but I kept my face neutral, like I didn't hear him. Then he pulled something out of his pocket. I couldn't see it at first, just heard the click of metal. I looked in the mirror. It was a folding knife. Nothing huge, but sharp. Clean. Ready. "You're gonna take me somewhere else," he said. "Somewhere quiet." He hit the door lock button. I heard the clunk of all 4 doors locking. "Don't be a hero. Just drive." I kept my eyes on the road, trying not to show how fast my brain was working. My heart felt like it was trying to punch a hole through my chest. We were heading out of the city now, creeping up into the canyons, where houses got further apart and streetlights disappeared. Derek stayed quiet for a while, just humming this weird little tune, tapping the knife lightly against the seatbelt. I didn't dare say a word. I knew anything could set him off. Then he started mumbling. "You know, I didn't plan this, but maybe this is how it was supposed to happen. New start, new ride. You seem like the kind of guy who won't fight too much." My stomach turned. That's when I spotted a sharp bend ahead, with one of those small utility poles right near the curve. It wasn't big, maybe 10 feet tall, made of wood, but if I could time it right. I tightened my grip on the wheel. "I think I know a spot," I said calmly. Real quiet. Up here. Derek didn't reply. I counted down in my head. 3, 2, 1. I yanked the wheel hard to the right. The car veered off the road, slammed into the pole, and came to a screeching halt with a sick crunch of metal and wood. My airbag didn't deploy, thank God, but my shoulder hit the side hard enough to sting. I saw Derek's head whip forward and bounce back. He groaned, dazed, trying to figure out what just happened. I didn't wait. I kicked open my door and bolted. I ran like hell, toward the faint glow of a porch light I'd spotted earlier, maybe 2 or 3 houses down through the trees. I didn't look back. I just ran. I pounded on the front door, screaming for help. A woman answered, wrapped in a robe, totally stunned. I told her to call the cops fast. By the time they arrived, Derek was long gone. But I gave them everything, description, the ride details, even the exact moment he pulled the knife. They launched a manhunt right there in the hills. Hours later, they found him hiding under a bridge not far from the crash site. He had priors: assault, theft, even a restraining order for threatening a Lyft driver 2 years earlier. He wasn't supposed to be using any rideshare apps at all. After that night, I changed my shifts. I only drive during the day now. I installed a dashcam. I started checking every passenger's vibe the second they get in. Because no matter how normal a ride might seem, it only takes one wrong turn to find yourself face to face with a man holding a knife, and nothing to lose.